All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Eric Brown. I'm with the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, and along with our affiliate Constep, which is Connecticut's Manufacturing Extension Partnership, we're very pleased to act as hosts for this week's Techstars manufacturing track. I'm very excited about this program we've got for you this morning. We're going to talk with leading experts on manufacturing 4.0 and what you should be thinking about and considering in your startup ventures, given where Connecticut, the country, and the world is in this fourth industrial revolution. So I'm going to kick it over to my colleague, Jeff Orzak, who is Director of Strategic Growth and Technology for Constep. And thank you all for joining us. Jeff?
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And I'd like to start by introducing our colleagues from Stanley Black Decker. Marty Guay, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, Jeff. Thank you. And thank Eric, two great partners for Stanley Black Decker in the state of Connecticut, CBIA and Constep. My name is Marty Guay. I'm the VP of Business Development at Stanley Black Decker. And I have responsibility for our Techstars Accelerator in downtown Hartford, and also work on initiatives throughout the city and state to promote economic competitiveness and workforce development for Connecticut. And just a real quick background on Stanley Black Decker for those who know us. You probably know us through a house of 50 plus brands all over the world with DeWalt, Craftsman, Mac Tools, Proto, Irwin Lennox, Black & Decker, Stanley Tools. We also have, as the #1 tool maker in the world, we also are, we have an oil and gas business, we have an industrial business, we have an engineered fastening business, which has content in about 90% of the cars on the road today. We have a electronic security business, an automatic door business, and a healthcare business. So we're really a diversified industrial with a whole host of manufacturing needs.
Thank you. And Carl Marsh, can you introduce yourself, please?
Well, good morning. It's good to be on this panel. And my name is Carl March. I am one of the directors of our Industry 4.0 program at Stanley Black Decker. In my role, I focus mostly on the analytics and the application value streams, but within our program, we also have the connected factory and the automation value streams as well, all covered under the Industry 4.0 umbrella. It all comes back to being lean-led, data-driven, and tech-enabled. That's really how we go about our transformation internally. I also lead our external enablement programs wherein we share our learnings and our approaches with other organizations and manufacturers. Prior to joining the company, I spent most of the past 2 decades split between working directly in manufacturing and being an expert consultant across industry sectors in lean and advanced manufacturing.
Thank you very much. And we have a short video from Stanley Black Decker, so we can share that now.
In April 2019, Stanley Black Decker opened a 23,000 square foot advanced manufacturing center of excellence called Manufactory 4.0 in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. Everything seen in the space is meant to be representative of what we can, will, or have deployed in our sites. For example, the automation of the dull, dirty, and dangerous aspects of a typical job in one of our sites has been replaced by collaborative robots and cobots. In so doing, technology enables us to remove the elements of unsafety and inconsistency and provides our workforce with the opportunity to upskill to more productive tasks. In our space, we have representations of these cobots performing various activities, from tasks requiring some amount of dexterity, such as gluing and drilling, to pick-and-place applications. Along with that, we have autonomous robots and automatic conveyors performing the conveyance of product and WIP between cells while seamlessly coexisting with people in the same environment. Another key focus area has been connecting our factories for data streaming and analytics. In our hybrid cloud and edge architecture, we are able to view and react to high-level strategic metrics down to tactical insights driven by underlying AI models. The robustness of our approach even enables data accessibility from the plant in their respective geographic regions back to our Centre of Excellence, aptly named the Nerve Centre. Our work with cyber-physical representations of our assets and processes, also known as digital twins, runs the gamut. We have simulation models for value streams, processes and equipment. In general, data is streamed back to the twins to enable real-time visualization of process parameters, as well as predicting likely outcomes such as failure, operational performance and optimization opportunities. Applications developed by the Centre of Excellence and our extensive partner network are made available for implementation at our sites through the App Store concept. As part of this effort, we continue to innovate with the use of augmented reality for training and upskilling programs. The Centre serves as an innovation hub for the local region, helping Hartford continue its evolution as a leading market for advanced manufacturing in the United States.
Thank you very much. Marty, before we get started, could you just give everyone an overview of Industry 4.0 so we're all on the same page and everybody has an understanding?
Sure thing, Jeff. Industry 4.0, or is also called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, is the next evolution of manufacturing. The first industrial revolution was around power, namely steam power, which came into place in the early to mid 18th century. After that, it was mass production in the mid 19th century. The first person in the world who made mass production profitable was actually Samuel Colt with his firearms business in Hartford. And Henry Ford, when he was setting up his automotive business, came to Hartford to visit Colt to learn about mass production. And he also took a horse ride over to, because he was hadn't made all his cars yet. He took a horse ride over to New Britain to see Stanley's operation, because Stanley also was a leader in mass production. The third industrial revolution was in the 1960s around the computer, where you really could advance information quickly. And the fourth industrial revolution is really the digitization of industry, all around events, sensors, files, additive manufacturing, industrial IoT, factory of the future, a lot of things that Carl talked about. It's really being able to see things, adjust, and really get productivity. So the fourth industrial revolution is really about putting technology and capital into factories and making hands less important and heads most important, which we believe gives Connecticut a great advantage in the fourth industrial revolution because of its highly trained, intelligent workforce. So our site is called Manufactory 4.0. So we took 4.0, and Manufactory is a little takeoff on Stanley Black Decker, Stanley's original name, because the original name of our company in 1843, when we started 177 years ago, was the Stanley Bolt Manufactory. So we took the past, married it to the future, and our trajectory is forward.
Thank you. And Carl, can you tell us a little bit more about Manufactory 4.0 and what Stanley is hoping to accomplish there?
Yeah, certainly. So, I think when we think about the fourth industrial revolution, we have been going at this worldwide, for the past almost, I'd say somewhere around 7 years, close to a decade, if you think about it. It's hard to imagine that it has taken that long, but then when you put it into perspective of even just the history that Marty just shared, right? it does take a while to adopt at scale. So our efforts with the Manufactory for Stanley Black Decker is to serve a number of purposes. And it's also conveniently located in Hartford, Connecticut, for those purposes as well. The first reason is we want to make sure that we have an environment that supports this overall Industry 4.0 program, which we started some 3 years ago within Stanley Black Decker. The second thing is it gives us an innovation, an area for our innovation sandbox for the different technologies, whether it is the connected factory, how we connect our sites and coming back in, data coming back into the nerve center, as you saw. It enables the automation, design and prototyping. It enables the analytics that we're able to see as against specific machines that we already have deployed in our sites. So it gives us that sandbox. The third element is that it gives the opportunity for our internal teams, so from the respective sites and business units, to come, see, touch, feel what Industry 4.0 brings to the table, so that it will also energize them to make it more of a pull rather than a push effort regarding scaling Industry 4.0 across the network. And then finally, the location is not by chance. Stanley Black Decker has the history of being in Connecticut and supporting innovation in Connecticut. Locating the Manufactory in Hartford, downtown Hartford no less, it's also intended to show the commitment that our business has towards innovation, and particularly Connecticut. So as a result of that, we've been able to open our doors on quite a few occasions to schools, to various groups, community groups, and other manufacturers, etc., and other partners. We have a vast partner ecosystem that has also been helpful in us setting that up as well. So it gives us that showcase environment to enable further partnerships, upskill others, as well as learn from others as well.
Thank you. So Marty, can you tell us a little bit about the 7-year journey Carl mentioned and why it's important to Stanley and what they're hoping to accomplish as business objectives in switching to the fourth industrial revolution?
Sure. I mean, Carl does a real nice job explaining it, but why it's important for us is because it really is a massive productivity lever in our business. First is around becoming more effective and efficient. So instead of deploying more hands, we're going to deploy capital with smarter people operating the capital with higher paying jobs. So this transformation is really around increasing the level of productivity for us, but also enabling better jobs. There's 60,000 people in Stanley Black Decker. We believe over the next 10 to 12 years, we're going to have to reskill 30,000 of them because of the transformation of technology into the manufacturing process. So we believe by doing so, we will have better, not only better financial returns for our business, but also better human returns. You know, Carl talks a lot about moving away from dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs to jobs that are meaningful and higher paying. So you can imagine walking into a factory that's very clean, has a lot of automation, but we need people who can manage technology. So really who can understand diagnostics, intervention, reading data, troubleshooting. So people will not be, in the video you saw somebody making bolts and threading bolts. We don't want people to do that. We want people to manage collaborative robots called cobots and really sell automation areas and really have a lot better job satisfaction. So we think it's transformative not only for us and our customers, but as importantly, the other important leg in the stool is our employees. It'll just be better jobs. And this is why reshoring of jobs will happen over time because you need smart, intelligent, trained people to manage manufacturing. It's not dull, dirty, and dangerous. These are high-tech jobs. So there's some political reasons why things will come back, but there's also some real secular trends around technology. So for Stanley, it's important. Jeff, we've taken a enterprise approach, 120 plus sites around the world. We're looking at this whole solar system and how do we connect it all together so we can see it and then activate solutions throughout it to optimize our performance.
Thank you. Exciting story. Carl, can you maybe talk a little bit about how the transformation is going to be important for small and medium-sized manufacturers, as well as potentially impact startups and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so you know, when we think about even the journey that the world has taken so far with Industry 4.0, it's been difficult, quite frankly, for a lot of companies to get on board, right? There are a number of reasons behind this, but if you think about the bigger companies, and I'll probably include Stanley Black Decker in that number, there has been, you know, some headway has been taking place, right? But you'll probably find that in a lot of companies, there has been some slow progress over the first few years due to some fits and starts. There's a term or a phrase that was coined a few years ago regarding pilot purgatory. And this has been used in many an article, and I think you know, very much so in the World Economic Forum, etc. You'll see that there's actually such a phenomenon. There is a thought process by most businesses, even the bigger companies, that let's just try it out. And we'll try out one pilot here, one use case there, right? Not really thinking about the strategic big picture as to how you will tie all of these discrete use cases together to provide the holistic productivity benefit that is being sought by Industry 4.0. So that's one of the first things. So big companies have suffered from this. Small companies have suffered even more because even the big companies, they have some amount of capital to perhaps do some of this experimentation that small and medium enterprises have not had that opportunity to do so. So what we have now over the past few years, however, is that this is starting to turn around. People are moving, or companies are moving further away from this pilot purgatory phase, and they've learned enough that it's a connected ecosystem of use cases that will bring the benefit. The second thing that has helped is that the cost of a lot of the technologies are starting to go down, because some of it is getting more commoditized. So there's a lot more, and as you can expect with any technology, that's what happens over time. So that has given the benefit now to the small and medium enterprise who were previously held at bay due to cost. They now have the opportunity to now come in. Now, the thing is, for entry for small and medium enterprises, that they also need to still enter in a smart way so that they don't also suffer from what the bigger companies have suffered from with respect to pilot purgatory. So that's where it's important that for holistic adoption across supply chains, across value chains, across multiple different sizes of companies, it will be important that there is a sharing and scaling type of approach. Those who have done it and are further along the journey, there is an onus, there's a responsibility that we have to be able to package those learnings, those best practices in a way that it's a lot easier for small and medium enterprises to pick this up.
Thank you. Marty, maybe you can talk a little bit about Stanley's desire to help with that path and be one of the leading edges to manufacturers and new businesses looking to implement Industry 4.0.
Sure. Our leader around Industry 4.0 is Sudhi Bangalore, and he's come into the role, I think it's almost 3 years ago in December. with a real attitude around openness and sharing. Sudi leads a track for us at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and our CEO sits at Davos on that track along with other global manufacturers. And Jim Lurie, our CEO, is also on the board of the National Association of Manufacturers. So we feel a responsibility to help the ecosystem. When I talk with Eric Brown about the Connecticut Manufacturing Collaborative with 8 manufacturing organizations inside, there's 4,000 companies just in the state of Connecticut. So there's some big ones like Pratt & Whitney with 19,000 employees, or recently 19,000 in the state, but there's also a lot of small ones. And you know, we've hired, Carl, I don't know if I get the number right, but probably 40 to 50 people in Hartford and in the field on this Industry 4.0 journey. You know, for us, that's a lot of brain power. People from other companies like Rockwell or other Industry 4.0 companies that are implementing the process. So it takes a lot of brain power. We feel that we should share those learnings. We bring in partners. We work with about 15 to 18 strategic partners that come into Hartford, like Rockwell Automation or Microsoft or Cisco or Omron, Ready Robotics, a whole host of them. But we feel that we can be a change agent for the manufacturing ecosystem. The stronger the manufacturing ecosystem is in Connecticut, the better it is for Stanley Black & Decker. So we're going to lean in and help in that journey and work with others. So I've talked with our counterparts at Raytheon, who are responsible for Industry 4.0 and other manufacturers in the state and outside the state, and people want to work together. I mean, this is not a zero-sum game. We're certainly not going to work with a tool competitor that Stanley competes against, but we don't have any of those in Connecticut. So through Carl's initiatives and Sudi working outside, and with Eric and you, Jeff, at Concept, we feel we can help the ecosystem get up to speed and up to shape on things that work. There's a lot of people selling things out there, but we want to use technology that's tried, true, and tested, and our center does that.
No, that's an excellent point. As we move to smaller businesses, it's important that we don't, that some of the experimentation gets better defined so that there's a higher level of success. Carl, can you talk a little bit about the role of Lean and Six Sigma in the journey? Is automation or Industry 4.0 replacement for those, or how do they complement each other?
Yes, that was one of the early learnings by most, that Industry 4.0 is not necessarily a replacement for some of the traditional transformation efforts and programs that have been pretty much the staple of manufacturing excellence over the past few decades, right? The intent of Industry 4.0 is not to replace those things. In fact, you could argue that Industry 4.0 should enhance those. So that's why when I'm in my introduction, I mentioned the whole lean-led, data-driven and tech-enabled moniker that we use, because that's truly what we believe. We believe that is the path to success. If you're looking for manufacturing excellence, if you're looking for transformation in the types of environments that we work in, you certainly have to determine up front, where are your opportunities to stop waste? Where are your opportunities to prevent value leakages? And then you work from there on. So Lean, Six Sigma, and the rest, they still have a part to play as we go forward. But then we also need to think smartly. I know when you speak with some Lean practitioners, you know, and I can't fault them too much. They are very heavy on the Lean processes and the tools, and almost to the point of not really recognizing the benefit that could be gained from bringing in the technology to enhance this. So it's not really one or the other. I think what we have to have is a set of practitioners. We have to have the approaches, the methodology, and the standards that support both working together in the same environment in order to get to the goals that we all want.
Yes, it's very true that it's about change management and continuous improvement, and the different toolkits you go into to do those most effectively will vary from company to company and be applied as they best suit your needs. Marty, I'd like to pull back on the thread you mentioned earlier about the workforce, and specifically in Connecticut, and how you see Industry 4.0 impacting the workforce in Connecticut. And one of our strengths is certainly that we have a skilled and highly educated workforce, and how we continue to repurpose them to manage the transformation to Industry 4.0.
Right. I have some pre-COVID numbers. I don't have any post-COVID data. I am sure somebody does, but that's not me. But Connecticut has the highest paid manufacturing jobs in the United States. The average wage of a Connecticut manufacturing job is about $102,000 a year. And as we know, many of these are longer term. That's the average. But there's people that have been in these jobs a long time. There's a silver tsunami coming with people retiring, about 160,000 plus jobs. And my colleague, Eric Brown, has specificity around all these things. But I know that what's going to be important is to reskill that workforce on technology. Also bring in new people to manufacturing in Connecticut. And the third thing that we feel is very important is that we need to get the entire ecosystem, most importantly, the supply chains, because that's where all the companies are, up to the highest possible level of Industry 4.0 standard in terms of workforce training and in terms of technology adoption and productivity. If we have the best supply chain in the country, we will attract work to Connecticut. We may not have other manufacturing companies relocate to Connecticut, but we will have our Connecticut companies grow by selling into other ecosystems. So we really believe that the supply chain getting up to shape and up to speed is important. We're also working on back to the second point on getting new people into the manufacturing workforce. We've launched an initiative around vocational training, vocational tech, and really trying to, for lack of a better word, rehabilitate that verb. Because as you know, in the last 30, 40 years, people moved away from vocational technology or really working with their hands. And we feel at Stanley Black Decker that working with our hands and making things is probably one of the most important things we do as a country and as a society, because it gives us purpose, it gives us freedom, it gives us really ownership over our future. So we're really driving the maker movement with a lot of others to make sure that this is a place where people want to work with their hands and build things and get involved in manufacturing, ultimately with technology, that there'll be good, high-paying jobs to do that. And I think there's a lot of frustration with $1.6 trillion of student debt, people getting out of school and really not knowing how to do something. So we feel manufacturing is going to be a great, great place to have a great lifestyle, great life satisfaction and job satisfaction, and being able to be in Connecticut also.
I know I've certainly enjoyed my journey in manufacturing, and see part of my role at Constep is helping to raise our base in Connecticut because I've enjoyed what we've done. Carl, can you talk a little bit about how Industry 4.0 will impact the supply chain? For example, digital twins, model-based definition, maybe even analytics.
Yeah,
actually, I keep forgetting. So reminder to our audience, please submit questions into the chat function. We will take some time to answer questions if we get those. So excuse me, Carl.
Oh, yeah, perfect. So yeah, it's quite important. And just to piggyback on where Marty just mentioned regarding the importance of lifting making the high water line a little bit higher, right? We need to lift the entire ecosystem, really, for a number of reasons. Because when we talk about upskilling the workforce, etc., in order to actually attract more folks that you can upskill, we have to do things in a different way, because there's a reason why a lot of individuals have shied away from manufacturing in general, right? And some of that has to do with the perceptions around what manufacturing jobs really look like. And really that has been changing in leaps and bounds over the past few years, particularly due to Industry 4.0. So now when you talk about the supply chain, it's good when, as a manufacturer, you are you're lifting that high water mark within your own sites, and you're reaching a point of excellence, but you're still limited in terms of what the full value potential that you have as a business, without also integrating that type of benefit into your supply chain. Now, over the past few years, if you think about the US, we have this long-standing issue / disadvantage, some might say, to lower cost countries in the form of labor rates, right? And that has driven manufacturing to be largely held overseas, for example. Now, with Industry 4.0 technologies, increasing productivity, etc., and doing things in a different way, there's an opportunity to bring some of that into the more local regions. So one of the things that Stanley Black Decker prouds ourselves at is really, or takes pride in, is making where we sell, right? So if you're trying to localize some of that and build a more resilient supply chain, automatically you will need to move your supply base around. And in order to do that in a cost-effective way, you will need to lift the productivity within your supply base as well. So it's all connected. It's all a part of some grand master plan, not written by me, obviously. But
I think it was written by you, Carl. You're the smart guy in the call.
But it's really all connected. It's really all about doing things and working in a smarter way, and that's really where Industry 4.0 comes in.
I just want to add one thing to what Carl said about, we want to sell, we want to make where we sell, and then source where we make. So instead of global supply chains, they actually become very regional or more local. So when we were selling DeWalt drills, you'll see some behind me made in North Carolina, and hoping everyone buys more for Christmas. When we were selling our DeWalt drills, our power drills, which are the best in the world, in the UK, what we found was that people in the UK wanted to buy a drill that said made in the UK with the Union Jack, the British flag on it. And this is a very global theme. So we're starting to see everywhere that people want to buy things more locally. The other big driver, to add to Carl's point, is that the carbon impact of global supply chains is enormous. But if you make those supply chains regional, you don't have to ship products, fly products, sail products all over the world. You actually can make things close. So we're relocating a Craftsman plant. We're bringing Craftsman back to the US from China. We bought the brand from Sears a couple of years ago, and we're opening a very big plant in Fort Worth, Texas, because people want to buy American tools made in America, right? But it also will reduce the carbon footprint of flying, sailing things around the world. So it's pretty exciting what's going on.
Well, it is interesting to see the challenges it'll take to bring some manufacturing back to America. And certainly there's some robustness in bringing things more regionally and avoiding some of those issues. I had a train of thought that I lost, so I'm going to go to a question that came in. So can you talk a little bit about how you have marketed Industry 4.0 internally to your employees?
I'll go first on that, and then I'll give it to Carl. But I think we view it as an investment. I talked earlier about job satisfaction and really reskilling and upskilling people for jobs that are higher paying and have higher job satisfaction. So our employees are looking forward to this transformation. There's an expression in life that the only person who likes change is a wet baby. But we also know that people, when they see a company making investments in technology and making investments in the employees, they like it. We don't see a big reduction in our workforce through this transformation. We see that with our growth, we're able to maintain jobs, but make them more productive, more satisfying, and higher paying. So for us, it's really interesting. The other big transformation going on inside the company is due to COVID, is the amount of e-commerce that is going through our global e-commerce platforms. It's amazing how people are staying home and buying tools and outdoor equipment and fixing their house and trimming their trees, and so we're seeing a big shift in demand for e-commerce platforms. So people inside the company love what's going on. Carl, I'll give it to you because you're in the front, and you actually have eyes and feet and arms inside of our factories to listen to our people on this.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'll add to that, and I think Marty's spot on. And what I'd add to that is when we started talking about this, when you raised the question, Jeff, my mind immediately went towards an old change management model that I was introduced to so many years ago called ADKAR, right? That's ADKAR. So if we think about it's an acronym for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforcement. So if we're talking about marketing to our internal employees, the value of Industry 4.0 in order to get this adoption, this change management, a lot of effort was spent up front, giving that awareness and desire. Because there are many misconceptions as to what technology can do, good or bad, to the manufacturing environment. And one of the things that we spoke through already on this panel is around automation, which has gotten a very bad rap over the years, mostly due to misperception. And the possible loss of jobs as a result of automating facilities. We have not experienced any of that thus far, and that's not the direction that we're going. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We're creating more jobs. We're creating different skill sets as a result of bringing in these technologies. So that's just an example of how we had to eventually get past some of the myths. So we had to bust some myths and misperceptions up front in our marketing. And then secondly, going back to the manufacturing and the importance of it is that's where, again, there are a lot of, I'm from the manufacturing field. I'm from the shop floor. I like to touch and feel versus just hearing about it or seeing it on a screen or a slide deck. So the manufacturer gives that opportunity to many people to come in and touch and feel. And that has been very helpful in our adoption as well.
Yes, it sounds similar to the journey of lean a couple decades ago and the resistance there. Yet the increase in productivity made companies more profitable, not less, or didn't eliminate jobs for the most part. So talk a little bit, and maybe Marty, you can start with this one. Our Startup Week is geared around entrepreneurs, and talk a little bit about where you think entrepreneurs can make an impact in moving Industry 4.0 and kind of where there are gaps that potentially an entrepreneur could look to help solve.
Sure. I think the benefit of being an entrepreneur is you don't have to worry about legacy. So when you're solving a problem, you can just focus on that problem. I think some of the advice I would give entrepreneurs working in manufacturing or advanced manufacturing is make sure that your proof of concept, change management's really important. You could have a great technology, but if it can't be embedded to change a process, or you don't know how it'll affect the process, that's problematic, because us dropping something that's really efficient into the middle of a value chain that may solve for a point, but not for the whole chain. It may disrupt all the other pieces and optimize one piece. That's problematic for us. The other thing that we look for are things that we can copy paste, because we need to bring technology not just to one moment, but to a multiple of moments inside of one plant or a lot of other plants. And we don't want to have a high amount of discrete point solutions, because it's really hard for us to manage that. We need things that are a bit forgiving and malleable so that we can drop them into a multiple of different places. Maybe the chassis is the same, but the paint job is a little different, and we can live with that. But we can't have different chassis everywhere, because it's just too hard for us to manage. So for entrepreneurs in this area, most people are focused on technology and processes. It's really important to understand how that impacts the existing framework of manufacturing. How does it impact what's coming in and what's going out? And again, it may solve for something really specific because you're not worried about legacy. We have to worry about bringing legacy forward. So we do want entrepreneurs to focus on, what is the problem, and try and help us solve it. And then we work with startups on use cases inside of our plant, or proof of concepts. We work with a lot of big global players in advanced manufacturing, like the Rockwells, but we also need startups, because startups don't have all the legacy that Rockwell will have. They're actually are really good at solving problems, but they just need to make sure that the context is solved for as much as the point solution.
Mm-hmm.
Carl?
Yeah, so the only thing I'll just to add a bit of color and maybe an example there. You see manufacturing startups, and we encounter them almost every day, because there's just so many startups out there that are trying to solve different parts of a perceived problem, right? So clearly, Marty it just pointed out, we need to solve the right problem, right? So that's even the first thing that you need to figure out. What's of most benefit to the manufacturing environment, and hence what would be most valuable to be solved in the here and now. There are many things that we can solve, but what's most valuable to solve now? Secondly, we have to think about scale. When startups, you start to solve a problem, and you end up locking yourself into a technology that it may work for now, but 3-4 years from now, when pretty much what you've now hinged your entire business on becomes commoditized, right? There's nothing really differentiating you from the rest of the pack other than maybe an earlier entry into the market. So at that point in time, you probably need to make some course adjustments to make yourself more profitable. But because you've locked yourself into a very rigid type of architecture, or a very rigid setup that doesn't enable you to do that, then you may run into problems then. And we've seen that with some of the technologies and startups that we've been dealing with too.
Thanks, Carl. Maybe you can add a bit about how Stanley Black & Decker has used modularity to also address some of what Marty talked about in flexibility and being prepared to incorporate legacy into systems.
Yeah, so I was even expressing this to someone yesterday in terms of even just on their automation design, right? The traditional route to creating a new product would generally would generally require an entire line to be automated, to be very specific as to how it will manufacture that particular product over time. And Stanley Black & Decker, like everybody else, has been doing it that way for many years. But In this last few years, as we've gone more into Industry 4.0, and we also have our advanced automation teams outside of Industry 4.0 within our company, we have all looked at different modular ways to achieve the same objective. Meaning, if we are going to create a new drill, and it requires a certain set of manufacturing steps, we will have those steps taken care of through modular elements of a particular cell, which we'll call it for kicks and giggles, let's call it the M cell, right? Which we know that over time, we'll need to modify based on customer feedback, based on productivity, etc., which allows us to actually just remove modules versus removing the entire setup or the line, because that's where it becomes very cost prohibitive to do so.
Thank you. All right. Again, audience, please feel free to put comments or questions in the chat. And Marty, this one's from the audience. Can you talk a little bit of how Industry 4.0 and your transformation there has impacted Stanley Black & Decker's marketing and marketing strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I could answer that in a lot of ways. I think when you go big, bold, and an enterprise approach to a transformation, you get attention. And with that attention comes accountability around expectations, internal and external. You're saying you're going to do something, people want to watch that journey. But there's also a halo effect. And by that, we mean that there's this psychology or this perception caused by these guys and gals are really the leaders and trying to do something. So we kind of put ourselves out there, but I can assure you, top to bottom, from our CEO down to our shop floor worker, in every plant in countries all over the world, everyone knows about this journey, side to side, top to bottom, building one of the best Industry 4.0 examples in the industry. And our CEO, Jim Lurie, wants to be known as one of the world's great advanced manufacturing companies. He wants Hartford to be an epicenter of advanced manufacturing excellence and innovation. And he wants Central Connecticut, really where a lot of the manufacturing is based, to thrive with these strategies. So we the marketing around it, we don't market, our customers know that we're trying to continually create better, more cost-effective products. But we've really exposed our strategy to our shareholders, our stakeholders, and our employees and the whole world to say, this is who we want to be and we're going to do this. So guys like Carl and I have to run like heck to catch up to that, right? It's when somebody comes out and says we're going to be world class in this, it's up to us to execute. So we know what we need to do. It's not easy. Again, it's an enterprise approach. We're looking at the whole world here, not just our plant in Danbury, Connecticut. This is a big go-get, and we're gonna realize a lot of trapped value in these factories around cost, around efficiency, around job satisfaction, around customer satisfaction. So we're pretty excited that the marketing around that comes with the success of the strategy.
Yes, it would be great to capture some of the trapped value in Connecticut's manufacturing ecosystem.
I think we have to, right? I think,
well, yep,
Jeff,
you're right.
We all need to work together and come together to figure out how everyone can be better. Because if the whole neighborhood is strong and the whole neighborhood becomes important, and that just draws people here from outside of Connecticut to buy more of our products and services, or to expand operations here, or to relocate her up. Then you bring in entrepreneurs and academics. It's quite exciting. So we feel we're not the leader in this process. We're a leader, and a lot of us need to be leaders in this process in Connecticut.
As well as the knowledge base that it would bring, and then that talent. Carl, a question from our audience. For a startup that's, has a product base, is a manufacturing based startup, how do they look at incorporating or being prepared for Industry 4.0 in their production processes as they move from proof of concept to production outlines?
That's even looking at the other angle. It's not just creating the technology, but also, as a manufacturing startup, being able to do it right the first time, which frankly, that's the advantage that that greenfield environment presents, is that you're able to do it right the first time, incorporate the best practices that are now known, right? It's a lot easier than brownfield environments, if you think from that perspective, who you have to think about replacing currently working machines, but they may not be as efficient. Current setups, which may not be as efficient, etc. So from a manufacturing standpoint, startup standpoint, you definitely have to think through end to end. What is it that you're trying to accomplish in terms of your overall objective for throughput, for efficiency, etc. Right? So you think about your business objectives, which should ideally match up with what the best in class for that for your industry should be. Then secondly, you think through, okay, where am I now? Right? In terms of the thinking, I can potentially go one route, which will have a certain cost to it. And then obviously the trade-off will be made about between cost and efficiencies, etc., to meet the goals that I just mentioned. So it's definitely therefore an opportunity to upfront integrate the best practices. The second thing I'll probably add to that is that culture. The manufacturing startup, a new manufacturing environment has a culture that can be created versus a culture that needs to adopt, right? Or adapt, right? Rather. So what that means is that if you set your environment up in a certain way, you can think through how you want the processes in terms of business processes, people, to interact with the technology. So it's always a problem that we're trying to solve holistically around people, processes, and technology, and making sure that these are all ideally suited for the objective that you set up front.
Yes, one of the wisest startup CEOs I know is he was more about how he set up his business to grow rather than just start that, make that initial push and setting up people to be ready for their new roles and growing with the company. Mm-hmm. So we have a few minutes left, Marty. It's been a very invigorating session, but maybe you could give some of your closing thoughts, and then I'll ask Carl for some of his.
Yeah, this is extremely important for Stanley Black Decker. Our transformation in Industry 4.0. It's going to impact all of our stakeholders, our shareholders, our employees. It's going to get us in our trajectory for the next 177 years, or at least the next 15. But it's important for us, and we truly believe that we need to live in an ecosystem that has echo and knock-on effects to our strategy. This is a core strategy for us, but it's a core strategy for our entire neighborhood, which is the neighborhood of Connecticut. So we don't want to be the best of the rest. We want to be the best of the best, and we need everybody from 4-man shops in Granby to 19,000 person shops in East Hartford to really succeed in this initiative. So we'll do our part. Carl's our ambassador around Industry 4.0 in Connecticut, and really just one of the most knowledgeable guys in our company. So we feel good about what we're doing. We know why we're doing it's important, but we want to do this with the whole ecosystem.
Thank you, Carl.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Marty. I think ultimately, I'm just so excited about where we are, right? Where we are right now. When I look back a couple of years, and we think about Industry 4.0 and what it presents or presented as opportunity conceptually, a lot of that has really come to fruition, right? It has been proven out in many, many different ways. The use cases are there, right? The opportunity that we have and the juncture that we are at is that we now have a better idea about how these all connect to deliver an overall value for everyone, right? So as Marty pointed out, we have a responsibility, and we've started to connect these dots internally at Stanley Black Decker, but we have a responsibility to also enable others to do the same. So those who might be on the fence about Industry 4.0, it might have been understandable a little bit for the reasons we previously mentioned, particularly for small and medium enterprise. But the fact is, you need to start where you are, right? Understand where you are, get in the game, and understand what could be, in order to develop that strategic roadmap for Industry 4.0 for yourselves. And that's where I think, it comes back to that corporate social responsibility that we as a company, we tend to leverage and feel a responsibility for, frankly, is that we need to be able to share that with others.
Thank you. Well, Connecticut, Constep and CBIA are certainly look forward to working with you and the Connecticut Manufacturing Collaborative. We understand the importance of improving, Connecticut's business ecosystem and bringing Industry 4.0 to the forefront. Eric?
Jeff, if I could just take a second to make a pitch sort of early in this session, which has been great. Thank you so much, Carl and Marty and Jeff. Pitch early in the session, we talked about sort of the overall landscape of manufacturing and number of jobs and economic impact and so forth. And I've just put in a pitch for tomorrow's session in the morning is the Manufacturing Summit, annually put on by CBIA and Constep. So that'll be a very comprehensive look at where things stand with manufacturing in Connecticut today, and some forecasting for the coming months and the coming year. So I think in the same place you signed up for this session, you have the ability to sign up for that, and I'd certainly encourage you to do so. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thanks to our hosts for enabling us to have this conversation.
Thanks, Jeff and Eric, for your leadership. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.